The stories shared on It Takes Balls are unique to the individual sharing. Always speak with your trusted medical provider for treatment options specific to you. Welcome back to It Takes Balls, presented by Testicular Cancer Awareness Foundation. Today I'm joined by Dominic Gross. Dominic is a testicular cancer survivor and an FBI special agent. Dominic, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Stephen, it is my pleasure. Thank you for having me on. You mentioned I could give a quick little disclaimer to start us off. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to sharing my story with everyone. Obviously, these are my own personal experiences and opinions, and not necessarily positions or endorsed opinions of the FBI or the United States government. But enough about all that. Stephen, how is your internet doing today? Are we all systems go this morning?
Yeah, my internet's working this time. I don't know if that was something that you guys did because you didn't want to be on or something, or...
No, I don't think so. But like, truth be told, I was like recovering from a cold at the end of last week. So on top of my already terrible radio voice, it probably would have sounded even worse if that's possible. So we should be good now.
So yeah, I mentioned you're an FBI special agent. So, I mean, tell me a little bit about who you are before we get into your testicular cancer story.
Yeah, so I'm 38 years old. I like to say that I'm a born and raised Wisconsinite and somehow got lost and ended up on the East Coast in Massachusetts. Let's see. Yeah, after college, I mean, I worked in the financial services industry and lived in New York and Chicago. And then, yeah, the Bureau eventually applied for the Bureau and they brought us out here. So we've been out here for about 10 years now, and I've been married for 11 years. We have two wonderful, energetic kids, second grade and kindergarten. And yeah, during working hours, I pretend to be an FBI agent out of our Boston field office.
That's amazing. Yeah, so let's talk about your testicular cancer story. So, tell me about like the first time you noticed something was off.
Yeah, I wish I could go back and know exactly how long. I think you might have been the same way because like I sat on it, it's like, that's nothing. It's like definitely, the old Sesame Street, one of these things is not like the other. And I don't know, like, with moving a lot like I did, and actually in the Bureau we get like annual physicals, which kind of stopped during COVID, unfortunately. Not that they would have caught it, but never had actually like a PCP. So once I started feeling something, noticing something was different, like sensitivity, pain, I tried to like go around and get a PCP, and like it was just really hard. So, then it'd be, all right, well, I guess I'll just wait a little bit longer. So, eventually I really wish I could remember how long. Like, if you told me it was a year, I might believe you. If you told me it was just 2 months, I might believe you. But actually, I was out at a training for a week in Buffalo, and it was for like a SWAT training. So we were all like kitted up every day, and eventually, just like that, like I was just every time I was like fully kitted up, all the gear and stuff. I was like, this is not. Like, I really need to figure something out because, it was, one was like left side was super enlarged, like definitely like, pain. So I actually, like before one of the training days, I think it was like on the Thursday, I just called like one of the offices that's like affiliated with a hospital. And I was like, hey, I really need a PCP. And they're like, well, we can get you in next April. I was like, well, this is what I'm having. And they're like, hold on. And they're like, can you come in tomorrow? I was like, I'm in Buffalo. I can't come in tomorrow. They're like, all right, come in Monday morning. So that's kind of how it all started. I mean, yeah, I wish I was like on top of it and better. And that's kind of why like I wanted to help with the awareness. Cause I mean, I don't know. I've done like the Movember thing. I've done like a run with the guys and stuff. And like, of course, just like, yeah, awareness, but without like actual consciousness of it and just not really getting the point.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably easy to chalk up to just a physical injury, having done like the tactical training and stuff. I mean, is that kind of what you were thinking?
No,
Okay.
it was, I mean, yeah, I could definitely tell something was, yeah, definitely not, should have been like on top of it more for sure.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So not having, a PCP, when you went and saw this doctor, what was that experience like? They obviously didn't have your history.
Yeah, he didn't. But I mean, he knew why I was in, and just kind of did the exam, and he just goes, okay, so obviously the big concern is testicular cancer. He's like, but it could be, epididymitis. So he's like, there's a couple of things. I'm going to schedule you in for, an ultrasound and things like that. And I was like, okay, like, I'm just kind of like, just pretty good at just being like a little stoic when it comes to that stuff. He's like, I'm surprised you're taking this so well. I was like, I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but he's like, okay. So, I mean, yeah, that one, like Dr. Green, like, I mean, he saw me, he's like still my PCP, like, thanks to him, like he got me through, and everything's kind of affiliated with this like hospital system. So, the rest of that week, he just had appointments lined up for me. And
yeah. Do you think that your stoicism, like, have you always been that way, or is that kind of does that come with the job?
I don't know. When it's stuff like that, and I know, I'm just like, I'm not gonna like make a big reaction to it. But no, those who know me well know I have a terrible poker face, and yeah, I've got the friends at the poker table to prove it. They know.
So what about your wife at this time when you went home and said, he said it might be testicular cancer? Was she concerned at all?
So yeah, I would like to remember if I like told her exactly everything I was really doing. I was like, I'm gonna go see the doctor. She's like, okay. And then when I think after I was like, I'm gonna go back. She's like, what's going on? And I was like, I don't want to worry her. But she's like, oh, okay. And kind of like as soon as I started learning more things. So, I mean, I didn't really like wanted to share too much or get people worried, but yeah, it kind once it kind of happened pretty fast. Like it was all like within the week.
Yeah. What were the next steps that you went through after, the initial PCP visit?
Yeah. So, let's see. Yeah, that was on a Monday. And then I think on Thursday, so like I think I was like gone overnight, like on a Tuesday night or Wednesday night that week. So then on a Thursday, I went in for an ultrasound and blood work. And I think my PCP called me while I was like driving away from the ultrasound. And he was like, I need to get you into the urologist. And I was like, okay. So that was on a Thursday. And then Friday, the appointment was Friday morning with the urologist. So I met with them. They ordered a CT scan that afternoon. And I think by the time I got home from the CT scan, they called me and were like, okay, like we think it's cancerous. Like not obviously people don't know, but they don't know until you do the pathology. But like either way, we got to take it out. So let's schedule you for orchiectomy. I think during my initial meeting with them, they had talked about like banking and things like that. He's like, well, my next appointment is Monday, but he's like, that's pretty soon. Like you still need to think about and talk to your wife and talk about banking and all this stuff. He's like, so the next one's in 2 weeks. So then when he called that night, he's like, so like, have you talked about, I'm like, let's just go for Monday if you can. So that's, I guess, pretty much the progression. I know a lot of people that you've talked to said, I mean, it was like not even a day they got the turnover. Mine was like from going to my PCP to orchiectomy was 1 week. So I thought that was really quick, but
yeah, mine was next day from, the urologist. I don't remember the time I saw the urologist, but I know my surgery for my orchiectomy was at noon. So around 24 hours for me from the turnaround.
Yeah, that's great. I was like, man, they're moving fast. And then I hear all these other stories, like they don't even let them out of the hospital. I'm like, oh wow, that's intense. Did you get like a lot of like a banking opportunity before that? Was that not even like a concern, or were they not super aware of that?
So they didn't mention banking before orchiectomy, but after orchiectomy, before chemo started, I did have the opportunity to bank.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you opted not to bank and you went for the orchiectomy. You already had your 2 kids. Did you want any more kids, or were you guys content with the 2?
Yeah, we were content, never really fully closing the door, but like just, we were content. Yeah. And yeah, it just, I was just like, I'm in it now. Like once I'm like, yeah, I'm in it now. Like, let's just get going with it. I think the first call I made after I talked to the urologist called me back and I scheduled it. So this is 2023. Sorry, this is all April 2023. The following 3 days later, the following Monday is Boston Marathon Monday, and which we're pretty busy for that. So I call up my SWAT team leader and I'm like, hey, so it's Friday night. I'm calling him like, hey, I can no longer work my detail where we're going to be. He's like, okay, what's going on? So I told him, he's like, dude, don't even say no more. What do you need? Don't even worry about it. What do you need? Do you need guys to come out and help you out? So that was my first concern, was like, oh, I gotta work on Monday. But I mean, that's going to be probably a theme for me is, it was like people at work and everything, like it made it pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting. And the Boston Marathon obviously has a history, and you don't think about the security detail and the SWAT team, having cancer.
Yeah. Well, if you're ever out there, you are very aware there's it is probably arm to arm law enforcement from the start to finish. If you like lined everybody up, like it's pretty crazy now.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So you had your orchiectomy, and you mentioned that your work was very supportive. Tell me about your orchiectomy and your recovery from that.
It sucked, but it's pretty manageable, especially like once you go through more and more treatments. Yeah, I mean, my daughter's birthday was like pretty close after that, so it was a lot of just kind of sitting around in the chair for a little bit. I mean, overall, it wasn't terrible, but now that I look back at it, I'm like, man, if I would have just been on top of it and that was the only thing I had to do, not to like take away from people who that's what they had to do, because it's a big deal. But I was like, man, that would have been so much better than all the other treatments down the line. But actually, so I mean, it's a very like you can't use your abs or like sit up very well. So we were have you ever seen the show on Netflix? It's called Murderville.
Mm-mm.
With like Will Arnett, and it's like kind of a sketch. Like sometimes it's improv, so they have a guest on. So I had never watched it. I'm like, I just need to watch something. So we're watching this one night, and it's like this one scene. Like Conan O'Brien is the guest, and it is like the funniest. They're at some restaurant, and Will Arnett's like he's like pouring hot sauce in his food, and he has to like roll with it, and he's like eating it. He doesn't know the script. And it is like I was like tears in my eyes laughing. I had to turn off the show right there because it was hurting so bad laughing. So I was like, all right, I can't watch anything funny for a while because I'll just be laughing. So
well, there went the best medicine.
Yeah, that's true. Not when it hurts so much to laugh or cough.
All right. So you had your orchiectomy, and do you remember what your pathology was?
Yeah. So it was, I got it back, was a couple weeks later or a week or so later. It was 80% seminoma and 20% embryonal carcinoma. And I think the tumor size was like 4.9 centimeters. So it was up there.
Yeah. And then, okay, so, you went with BEP times 3 chemo. So talk about the decision to do that chemo.
Yeah, it was, so after that, you meet with the oncologist, and my doctor at the time, Dr. Christopher Treader, now retired, but he'd been doing this for 30 years. So he was just very, very straightforward. He's like, listen, like, I don't get to say this much because I'm an oncologist, but with testicular cancer patients, I get to look you in the eye and say, we're going to cure you. And that's what he told me. And he's like, we know the recipe. And this is tried and true, and this is how we do it. So it was, I think my urologist recommended against the bleomycin. And I think maybe it was because of like work and, I'm going to need to, you have to be more physically fit and things like that. So he was like concerned about like the lung capacity stuff. And then, but my oncologist was like, are you a smoker? Do you have trouble? No, you're fine. So I'm very happy he was like very just matter of factly, because he's like, we'll do the lung function pulmonary test and we'll keep an eye on it and we'll cut the bleo if it's an issue. But he's like, but let's do the bleo. It enhances it, and you only have to do it 3 cycles instead of 4 cycles. So I mean, pretty much everybody who listens to this probably knows, but like the BEP is the 3 cycles. It's 3 cycles of 3 weeks each. The first week is Monday through Friday. You get it every day. You're in the chair for 4 or 5 hours. And then the following 2 weeks, it's Monday, like 15 minutes of bleo, probably like an hour total. And then week 3 is Monday, the bleo, and that's it. And then you start all over again. So it's 5 days and then 1 day each week after that. So not having to do the 4th cycle was, I was done with it after 3 cycles. You did 4, didn't you?
I did 4 times EP. Yeah.
EP, yeah.
So, to be an FBI special agent is, being able to have like lung capacity and run a lot. Is that a requirement? And was that a concern of yours personally?
It wasn't a concern. I mean, like, I kind of take fitness fairly seriously, but no, we have to do like an annual physical standards test. And then I'm also on our division SWAT team, so we have to do kind of additional physical requirements, which also includes being able to do like full on, like, the gas mask, like be able to, WMD, whatever gas mask stuff. So we have to do some kind of test for that. It was never billed to me as like a huge concern. And he was like, we'll do the function tests. So you can do that. And if anything's off, we can always turn it off. So, no, it wasn't a huge issue.
Gotcha. Okay. And I'm assuming you've passed it last year.
Yeah, I was able to, weave in everything and pass it. There's kind of a personal goal of mine to get, they do, I don't know, they rank like by age and gender, if you hit certain amount of push-ups, certain amount on the sprint and stuff, if you hit a certain amount, like the percentage, you're on like some top list for that year. And like, that was my goal last year, was to get back on there. So.
Nice. Okay. So talk about, like, did you work during chemo at all, or did they give you like a leave? Were you on desk duty?
Yeah. So we have like a whole bank of sick days, so I'm able to use that. But I mean, I'm indebted to my supervisor, Kathleen, on my squad, who's basically like, whatever you need. Like, we're kind of getting fresh out of COVID too, so we all had like, laptops, able to do some work from home. So, my chemo days, I was taking my sick days, and then pretty much by Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of like weeks 2 and 3, I was trying to get into the office twice a week at least, and then working the rest from home. But yeah, it was pretty much everyone was just like, listen, like, like, if you're good to go, you're good to go. If you need the time off, take the time off. And that was like, especially helpful on SWAT. There's like, hey, come to training when you can come to training. Like, we got you. Like, let us know when you're ready to roll, fold back into the team. You'll be right back in.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you have any side effects or experience any kind of difficulties during chemo?
Yeah. So the first day, they give you, like the IVs and all the stuff. And I don't even think the chemo started, like the actual like chemo drug started. And I just started, like my chest started tightening. Started getting like really warm. And I'm like, it was hard to breathe. I looked at my wife. I was like, holy cow, like this stuff's no joke. I didn't think it was like this. She's like, what's going on? She's like, you are really red. I was like, is this normal? And then the nurse comes in. She's like, nope, that's not normal. And she knew exactly what it was. Like clipped the IV, pulled the plug, and gave me like an IV of Benadryl. It was like an amend reaction. I think the drug was called like fosaprepitant. So I think I've heard like maybe somebody else mentioned that you've interviewed had like that reaction. They're like, oh yeah, it's something like, 1 out of 10 people or somebody has this reaction to it. I'm like, okay. So I think that's one of their like anti-nausea drugs. So so instead of using that one, they used a different one from then on. But yeah, that was pretty odd. I thought that's what the chemo was going to be every day. I'm like, holy cow, this burn's going in.
Did you, talk about losing your hair and with your kids, did they notice a physical change with you that kind of alarmed them, or were they too young to know?
Yeah, so they were like, 4 and 6 at the time. We didn't, we told them a little bit, but it's probably better for them to just kind of keep things normal. They knew, daddy's going in he's going to get some strong medicine. And he's going to be a little tired more often than not. But we didn't really warn them about the hair, and I kind of was like in denial that it was going to happen. I was like, oh yeah, maybe it won't happen. And then I don't know what happened with yours, but mine was so after the second cycle, so week 2, it was in the shower. I was like, uh-oh, like it's just all on my hair. So then when I decided to just go for it, I think I just like rubbed it off, most of it. I could just like rub it right off and then, like pick the rest of it. But yeah, so I was, and I had just done this, didn't warn anybody. And I think my youngest daughter was in my wife's office she was on like a work Zoom call, but she was just kind of like in her lap or something. And then she sees me walk by and then she goes, Daddy, what happened to your hairs? And then like everyone on my wife's call just started laughing because they kind of knew what I was going through. So
that's funny. Yeah. My hair was like, I remember when it was coming out, it was kind of like really prickly. I don't know if it's just cause it wasn't like fully attached, but it was just poking. Like when I would lay my head on the pillow, it would kind of like stab me. Did you have that at all?
No, like I wasn't really, I thought it would just be like pretty obvious, but like, it was just like a little bit here and then I'm like, once I started noticing it, it was like, yeah, maybe I can, style the hair for the day. And I'm just like, this is getting a little ridiculous. And then, I'm not a big, like, ball cap wearing person. So it wasn't but yeah, guys, get your hat game down. I have a buddy who's like, I got you. And he sent me a couple of hats from his company. So I was like, perfect.
Yeah, that worked out. Okay, so chemo ended and then what you had the RPLND. So talk about what was the residual mass that you had, if any, and then the decision to do RPLND.
Yeah, actually, if you don't mind if I go back to the chemo, man, like I would say I don't know what your worst side effect was. Like mine was I think the anti-nausea medication would just lock up your stomach. So I just I had this constant, I don't know, it's just like a knot in your stomach, which I guess is good for anti-nausea, but it was just, that was like unbearable. Like I was just like, I can't, like everything just felt horrible. Like, did you have something like that, or were you just more like actual sick? Nausea?
I didn't have, I didn't really throw up until the last week of chemo. I didn't poop for 10 days, I think was the longest I went. I don't remember any specific pain that I had, but yeah, didn't go for 10 days. Yeah. I took for nausea Compazine, which is an antipsychotic, but I guess helps with nausea. And that really messed me up. I couldn't sleep for like a day. So I was like, you know what? The nausea is better than not sleeping.
Yeah. I think I had some of that. And yet the sleeping was, so I got this, at the time I had one of those Oura rings. So it's like tracks your like sleep cycles and all that stuff. And on my full weeks of chemo, like that thing was like, I would like read the data the next day and it'd just be like, what is wrong with you? It is like, but sometimes it would be like, you got like 5 hours of REM sleep. Like that is unheard of. And then actually on my weeks off, it would be like, yeah, it would be really hard to sleep. I would wake up. I mean, I couldn't count how many like 2 a.m.s I would just wake up and go downstairs. And this is the one thing that saved me. I'll give my brother-in-law Brandon a lot of credit for this. He would keep me supplied with homemade sourdough bread. Game changer. So I would like 2 a.m, I'd just come down and toast up some bread and have that, and that'd be like the one thing that could really calm my stomach. Because like raw foods and like raw vegetables just like were not working. Like everything kind of had to be cooked or toasted or something. Yeah. I did. I think I did Zofran was like the big anti-nausea, and it got to the point where it's just like I just hated how it made my stomach feel. So I'm like, I told the nurse like, tonight, can I like try not to have the Zofran? They're like, you can try it. Yeah, I threw up that night. So I was like, all right, I need to go back on it.
Yeah, they advised me in the beginning not to eat raw fruits or vegetables because of potential bacteria, which wasn't an issue for me because I didn't eat fruits and vegetables anyway. But so after my diagnosis, some family members who are kind of like tuned into a lot of the naturopathic and, natural, like good foods, like organic stuff, veganism and stuff like that. They, got me this book, and it's kind of like I don't know. Have you heard of this guy, Chris Wark? Mm-mm.
Who's, so like he had, I forget what cancer it was. He had a cancer, got it removed, surgery. And then instead of doing chemo, he decided he was going to go on this raw food, like intense diet. And he claims that that's what actually finally cured him of the cancer instead of doing the chemo. So they got me this book, and it's like an anti-cancer cookbook. And I don't know, for like, between orchiectomy and chemo, like I actually like tried to go all out, and I was like, well, anything I can do, like, let's do it. Like, so it was like a lot of raw, vegetables, like just salads and tons of stuff. After my second day of chemo, like I could not stand even smelling that stuff. So it's like, I'm off it. I tried it for like 2 or 3 weeks, but then I was off it.
Yeah, I would recommend, as you mentioned, your doctor said that they know the recipe for chemo. I would recommend for testicular cancer to follow the guidelines.
Yeah, it's a different. Yeah, and I mean, there's probably different ways to go about things, but with testicular cancer, we're lucky, man. I mean, it wasn't a question. I mean, I've got kids. I've got, it's not if I have I'll deal with the side effects of the chemo later, but you gotta get rid of it. Actually, that's like my biggest. Do you have any like lasting side effects from it? Do you feel?
I feel like I have like a brain fog still, but it could just be that I'm stupid.
I was like, am I just forgetting a lot of things more or not? Or I'll just blame it on the chemo.
Yeah. I definitely do that all the time too. And my wife will say that I can't hear. So, I don't know if that's related to cisplatin induced hearing loss or if it's selective hearing. I don't know, but we'll call it cisplatin induced hearing loss. I think that happens
at marriage. It's a selective hearing. Yeah, but with the hearing loss, that was another big concern that they had with me for obviously doing like a lot of firearms training and stuff. They're like, could you like not do that while you're on chemo? But I was like, but I'm pretty good about it typically. Like I'll double up on my ear protection anyways. And we actually do like annual now hearing loss tests with the FBI. So, I mean, I've done a couple of tests since then, and it's been no change. So I've got like a little extra, that's a little bonus I get to watch out for that.
Yeah.
But man, I think the lasting thing, I don't know if we're gonna get to it, but like the lasting thing, probably the number one thing for me with the chemo is like, has anyone you've talked to had like Raynaud's?
I don't know if we specifically talked about Raynaud's, but yeah, neuropathy is a big thing, and those are similar-ish.
Yeah, I guess it's similar. Like it's not like, it's like a painful nerve thing, but maybe it's like something with the nerves. But I mean, I had like a mild case of Raynaud's, which is like, for anybody who doesn't know, like you get, cold white toes, fingers, extremities. But it is now like it's a thing. It's like chemo-induced Raynaud's phenomenon. It is like super, super intense. Like grocery shopping, if like I'm in the dairy aisle too long, like it is like painfully white. So that's my big challenge right now. Like pretty much the only like real lasting chemo thing I'm dealing with is like the Raynaud's. And I've been going to I forget what the doctor's called. I've been working with some medication to try to figure that out.
Does that affect your trigger finger? Being up north, you're obviously in the colder climate.
Yeah, we're a cold weather team. It's a challenge. I keep like I got some like electric heated gloves, so I like keep those on until like I really need to take them off, and you fight through it, make it work.
I assume the adrenaline would probably kick in and maybe take over in the heat of a moment.
Yeah, but yeah, it's definitely like the long training days in the cold weather we have out here is it's a challenge. I'm working through it.
Yeah. All right. So let's get to the RPLND. So you went to previous guest, Dr. Tim Clinton, who talked about robotic and open RPLND, and you went with open.
Yeah. So Tim Clinton, Boston. So when I was told, I mean, that's holy cow. Thinking that I thought I was done. Once we did the chemo, like I thought, I did it. I battled through this. I'm done. Like, I canceled an Italy trip. I'm finally done with this. And then going back and then being like, couple lymph nodes didn't go down the way they should have. He's like, so we're just going to have to go do the RPLND. I was like, what now? So, everyone, probably listening knows like retroperitoneal lymph node dissections when they cut you up and take the pockets of lymph nodes around your aorta. And once I got that's when I really started. I was kind of hit the brakes. I'm gonna like really see if one, this is like extremely necessary, and two, like shop around for a surgeon. Because my urologist, he's done them, and he's great. But he only does like I think 5 a year. So luckily so we have a awesome cancer center out here in Boston, Dana-Farber. Luckily through some work people and I was able to get in front of Tim Clinton, and he squeezed me into his schedule. And once I met with him, I was like, this is who I need to do the surgery with. And I still wasn't convinced I wanted the surgery, but it was like right on the borderline of, one, they want the lymph nodes down to like below a centimeter, right? So before, I think I had three or four that were plus or minus 2. After chemo, 2 of them were like 1.1 and 1.3. So it's right on the edge. I'm like, well, it went down. Like it probably did its job. But, the concern is that it's not cancerous, but it's teratoma, which can, I guess, is a type of cancer and can turn into more cancer. Mm-hmm. I met with Tim Clinton, and I don't think, I actually just talked to him about this, and robotic wasn't really an option for me. So they tend to stay away from robotic for post chemo RPLND. If they do it pre chemo, and I'm not exactly sure like when they decide they're going to do RPLND without chemo. I guess like post chemo things are just a little more sensitive. And he was gonna, I don't know. He's like pretty much like you were a candidate for open. That's pretty much what they do.
Yeah, we love Dr. Clinton here at TCAF, and anybody who's interested who hasn't listened to that episode, I encourage you to go back and listen to the one. I think it was from November of last year, 2024, where he talked about robotics. So that's very interesting. So talk about, your recovery from the RPLND, and you said the theme would be your work was very accommodating. So with the recovery and all that.
Yeah, the the hospital stay was probably the worst. I mean, I knew it going in. So I mean, I don't know, like if you could choose chemo or RPLND, which one? I think you've said you'd go RPLND if you had to choose between the two. I don't know. I probably would choose chemo. It was just the most shocking like trauma I've ever experienced. That was a lot. Man, I don't, the people that work at the hospital, they're great, but man, after my surgery, I spent over 24 hours in like a recovery room, like overnight with people who had it was not a great operation they had going on there. So, and I was, like the pain med team, like it was not where I should have been. So I was like texting Dr. Clinton on the side, be like, hey, like I'm still in this like recovery area and it's awful. Like I need to get into this room ASAP. So eventually I was able to get back up there, but yeah, man, the recovery, the pain and swelling, I felt like didn't go down until like 3 weeks afterwards. And it just like plateaued and stayed like awful for 2 or 3 weeks. But like when it started going down, it started going down fast. But yeah, I don't know what else to say. Like that's a rough one. Yeah, I was definitely out and, had to take a lot of time to recover for that one. Yeah. And work was, super helpful. Luckily I had a lot of sick days banked up.
Yeah. And then you mentioned that you have retrograde ejaculation, but with the two kids, was that a concern at all too? Or was it just?
No, not really. Just like so once the left side, Dr. Clinton was like, we're completely taking out, like it's not nerve sparing. He's like, the other side, we're taking out that template as well. Cause he's like, where I trained, like we do both. But we're going to go nerve sparing on the right side. And I think like you mentioned, like they were able to spare like some of the nerves. I don't know exactly how it works. Yeah, I think someone may have mentioned like it's only like 5% chance of retrograde. I'm sure it depends on open versus robotic and things, but yeah, I was like, is that really the percentage? She's like, yeah, we definitely it's more like 20, like after everything settles down, like still long term, he's like still probably 20%. And I don't know if they have, it's different for robotic because also like robotic, you're not, it's like typically post or pre-chemo anyways. So a lot of different factors come into play too. But yeah, no, it's not a huge factor, but it's just different. Like, things are still normal. But it's a different side effect I wasn't expecting.
Yeah. Into survivorship, how have you felt? And, I assume your team has probably got some women on it, but I assume it's probably mostly men. So how have they kind of, have they rallied around you and survivorship and things like that?
Like, you mean doctor team or just like
your work team?
Okay. Yeah. No, they've been awesome. I mean, actually like my squad is, not mostly men, but it's so I work on a white collar squad that's my day job, and SWAT is like an extra duty where I don't know, we just volunteer duty because we're kind of idiots and don't get paid anymore, but we just decide to do that as well. But no, it's everyone's been good. Like everyone knows like you will you know your body, like, take the time you need. And I mean, survivorship on that side, it's not, I don't think it's been a huge, it's not something like people need to worry about, like they need to worry about at work or anything. So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any like survivor's guilt or anything? I know you mentioned a little bit of that in your form here.
Yeah. So it's a lot of perspective. So, testicular cancer, we're a community of survivors for the most part. I have not been like super or at all like vocal about it, like on social media or anything of what I'm going through. And I'm sure if I post this podcast, people would be like, I had no idea, like close friends, but yeah, it's just not my thing to kind of share that. And also like, I had like our cousins, my wife's cousin, like our aunt Karen, was going through fighting terminal brain cancer for 2 years and passed away July of 23. So like right during my chemo. So just like watching, another person struggle with something that's terminal. Kind of, I don't know. Yeah, there's a little bit of survivor's guilt or just not, I don't know how to say it. I mean, everybody knows people who are going through tough stuff, but it's tough, like, showing up to those things and, being like, I'm fighting it, like, and going through like the cancer battle and, watching, close family members kind of suffering through that. And I mean, even, that uncle, he's a doctor or was a doctor, and he would be calling me asking for my pathology, asking me what's going on, like what's your treatment schedule, and I'm like, oh, like Uncle Rick, like I know you're taking care of, you got your own, they're driving up to, getting cancer treatment every day, like I mean, I was just like floored by the generosity of people around me, and it's yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. It's tough. But I'm lucky. Never went through it feeling sorry for myself. I'm fortunate that, we can call ourselves cured after a while. And, you just got to do what you have to do to go through the treatment steps. And, it's kind of like our duty. Like I heard, other people saying like, it's our duty. We're lucky. We have the cure. It's our duty to just go, get the treatment we need and come out on the other side.
Yeah, I think you summed it up nicely. What advice do you have for anybody who maybe has just been diagnosed and found this podcast as a resource?
I mean, if you found the podcast, good for you, because I wish I would have found this before. I think we mentioned, so you had Dr. Joe Shirk on. So after my RPLND, I think it was like less than 2 months after that, I was flew down to a bachelor party for a college friend. And Dr. Shirk was there, like we're old college acquaintances, buddies. And when we're going through like text messages of people on the string, I was like, oh, I wonder what everyone else is up to. I wonder what Joe's up to. I'm like, oh man, he's like, I knew he was a doctor. I'm like, oh, he's a urologist. Oh, he does exactly what I just went through. So I picked his brain a bunch there, and he introduced me. He's like, you should check out this podcast. Like I know, Steven, and he's like, and then he was also like, yeah, I could, if you want, like, maybe you should go on and be a guest on it. I was like, let me like listen to it first. But then I'm listening to the survivor stories and the doctors, and I was like, man, I wish I would have found this earlier. But yeah, if you found this podcast and you just got diagnosed, it's like, I mean, you're doing it right. Like a lot of people would say like, don't go to Dr. Google and figure things out. But I mean, do your research. I was a little bit oblivious to how many steps of treatment it could be. I just kind of took it, step by step, when I kind of wish I would have done a whole view of it, be like, oh, this is the possible treatment. And for me, it probably wouldn't have changed my decision, but like other people, like you got to look at it from that angle for like things like banking and things like that. Cause you don't have a lot of time. And once chemo starts, like, banking could be tough, and then you don't have and then you don't have a lot of time before you could get an RPLND, and, you could have retrograde, and I know someone mentioned that there's actually ways to go about doing that, but it's just more difficult. So, just learn. There's a lot of good stuff on this podcast, like, reach out to people who've been through it and can maybe give you some advice, but you kind of try to understand your whole possible treatment journey.
Yeah, great advice. And I'm glad you mentioned the Dr. Shirk thing, because I almost forgot about that. Is there anything else that you want to add that we didn't talk about already?
Like everyone like gets hit. Everyone takes this like definitely differently, and I've seen on like the Facebook groups and stuff, like a lot of people are struggling with things. But it's really important just to stay positive, and be your own advocate. So, once I started going through, the potential chemo scheduling, I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Can we, and I'm like, try to like be selfish. I'm like, oh, I have a trip planned there. Maybe I can start here. But I was like, no, like, let's start next week. Like, you want to start next? I'm like, yeah, like, let's not. So you can certainly be your own advocate and certainly like kind of have a say in your treatment. And that was pretty big with me when it came time to, for the RPLND. But I don't know. It's, if you need to rest. If you feel good, like feel good. So, I mean, I would, if my wife was here, she'd say like I was driving her crazy. Like during chemo, I would, when I had some extra time and I felt okay, like I was ripping up our porch boards and replacing our deck. And she's like, you've got to tone it down. But I was like, hey, if I feel okay, like I'm just gonna, like I'm not gonna act sick. Like if I feel okay, I'm gonna do it. And I know myself enough to like be able to just, cut it off when I feel sick or I don't feel like it. I need to just lay around for a while.
Were you able to finish the porch boards? You didn't have a big gaping hole out of your front door?
There was a hole for a while. It was a slow process. Like I said, I took it, piece by piece, couple boards a day. But yeah, I mean, yeah, like if it was, my parents be like, what the heck is he like? He needs to. So, I mean, that's another thing. Like, I mean, caretakers are amazing and super helpful. If there's caretakers listening, I would say, just. Not that this happened, but it's like, people expect you to be sick. They see your hair gone and they expect you to be sick. So it's when you're not acting sick, it's like, oh, are you sure? Like you want to rest? Like if they're feeling good and they're up for it, like, let them feel good. And, I know it's tough. Like, everybody wants to help and everybody wants to, like I mean, the biggest thing is like, being able to not being taken care of, but like see the caretaker side of people, like my wife, my parents, my in-laws, my friends, like people on my teams. Like, I mean, that was like super rewarding. So, it was a really tough year, but there was a lot of positives that came out of it. I got to spend some extra time with my kids. I got to see some like good friends like came out and visited, family came out and visited. I did get to go on my Italy trip. I thank Dr. Clinton for that. So I had to postpone it for chemo and then we rescheduled it for end of September. And so we went into the meeting and my wife was like, we're going to tell the doctor that, we've got this trip coming up. And I was like, we'll just see what he says and when the schedule is. And then he's like, listen to it. He's like, yeah, you guys we can do the surgery right after your trip. And then she's like, well, like, we're going to go to Italy and, it's kind of like a wine trip. So she's like tattling on me. But yeah, Dr. Clinton was like, go have fun, go on your trip. And, we'll hit the recovery when you get back. So, there's I have a lot of good memories from that year too, that I was able to do. So, like I'm indebted to like my friends that came out, friends that rescheduled trips for me. I couldn't have done it without them. I had friends with like 3 or 4 kids who were like, hey, I'll come on out and stay with you. I'm like, you don't have to, no, don't. You've got way more going on than I do. It's okay.
Yeah, that's great perspective. And, just going to segue using the Dr. Clinton segue. He is chairing our conference in Boston this fall, September 25th to 27th. So anybody listening, hope you can make it. I hope you can make it because you're the local boy there.
I'll be there. Yeah.
So yeah, Testicular Cancer Conference 2025 presented by Finnick Pharmaceuticals in Boston. So hope everybody can make it. Dom, where can people find you if they want to connect and learn more?
Probably like I'm on the Facebook group, the TCAF Facebook group. You can search for me on there. I'll be probably the only Dominic on there, Dominic Gross on there. I'm happy to talk to people, and if anyone's getting treatment in Boston and wants a call or has questions, maybe navigating, like I know the doctors I know, but I'm happy to help out. Like I didn't have that, and it would have been nice to be able to talk to people, talk through it. Can I throw a couple of thank yous out there? So, yeah. I mean, just like, my wife was like amazing this whole time, like so happy that, luckily her job was able to, give her some time off, give her like extra, like caretaker, like, medical, I forget what it was, but like medical time off. So she could always be there. I mean, my parents flew out and came to like my second week or my second cycle, like came every day with me, which is, I almost didn't want my mom to be there. I know your parents were there with you. But once they started like hooking you up, and then I just see like my mom's just eyes just, this is like, I'm like, it's okay. Like I was more worried for her than myself, watching that, but they came out, they came out for recovering from RPLND. My in-laws did anything we needed and everything. My family and friends, like all the prayers I received. I just couldn't be more thankful for, everybody. Especially at work, like my supervisor, Kathleen, just, I'm forever indebted to her and my squad for being there for me, and my SWAT team and my senior team leader, Ryan, at the time. It was always just, you worry about yourself, the team will be here for you. And I always had that too. I always had guys like, hey, do you need your lawn mowed? Do you need, I had 2 early morning appointments, and guys drove in, picked me up, and took me to the hospital for me. And just always knowing that I had, that total peace of mind, not that I needed it, but that I needed to use it, but it was always there. And that, if my family was in a jam for whatever it may be, the kids need a ride or something, I knew I had somebody who could help me out. So, just a huge thank you to that.
Amazing.
Can I do one plug?
Yeah.
It's maybe not a great time. So this is February. So, there's a lot going on in the federal government right now, but, it's a recruitment plug. So I do some recruiting events with us. So if, I never knew about the career in the FBI, but, anyone out there, like, just consider it, think about it. We have tons of people from who are in business, finance, accounting, whether it be like the special agent position or anything else. We have intelligence analysts, forensic accountants, everything. It's a really great career. We have an awesome mission. Everyone will tell you the 2 things are the mission and the people that you get to work with every day. So if, keep it in mind if anyone, wants a really rewarding career.
Amazing. Dom, thank you so much.
Hey, thanks, Steven. It's great talking to you.
For more information and resources for your testicular cancer journey, visit testicularcancerawarenessfoundation.org. You can also follow us on social media at Testis Cancer. We're on Facebook at Testicular Cancer Awareness Foundation.